What's going on, reefers? Blaine here. You all continue to ask to see more tank tour videos, and today we're going to continue that series. Today we're going to be linking up with Rob and checking out his up-and-coming reef tank system. Don't let the fact that Rob's a newbie fool you though, because his tank would like to say otherwise. Let's go ahead and check out all that has to do with this system and dive in. This weekend is our 12-year anniversary at Top Shelf Aquatics. To celebrate that, we're going to be doing our largest coral live sale ever. Be sure to head over to our website now and check out the amazing deals you can snag up this weekend, June 1st and June 2nd, for the Top Shelf Aquatics 12-year anniversary live sale. All right, continuing our tank tour series up here in New York. We're here with Rob. Rob, thank you for having me over.
Thank you.
Beautiful system, another beautiful home. Let's get right into it though. What's the size of this tank right here? What do we got?
All right, so we're dealing 240 in total system water volume. Tank is 6 feet long, 30 inches high, and 24 inches wide.
I'm sure it was quite the process getting it down here, down to the basement. How long of a process did that take to get this thing all built out?
It was. The initial build started back about a year and a half ago. Took about 4 guys and a dolly to get them down the stairs because we're down here in my basement. The bottom of the tank is actually the original base that I purchased, with my tank, and then the rest of everything else is all custom built around the base.
And then who did this install for you?
So a gentleman by the name of Mike Amorani did the install. He's with a company called Aquarium Network. And then later on, the gentleman that I work with now that did my Apex and some of the other stuff, computer systems on the tank, is a Mark at Dynamic Tank.
Right
so
on.
Between the two of them, I've used a couple different guys to help me get to where I am in the process.
Beautiful. Another really well thought out mixed reef tank. Did you always want to go with mixed reef, or did you have something in mind you were looking to do originally? You've got softies, you've got a nice LPS garden, There's even a really nice Gorgonian colony going on. What was the plan for you when you were looking at corals and what you were trying to go for?
So yeah, I'm a water guy, a big scuba snorkeling guy, so I wanted to go with the mixed reef. I wanted to really kind of replicate, the natural ocean environment with a little bit of every different type of coral, as well as fish. So that's kind of what I set out to do. When I first started in the hobby, I was really kind of drawn to Euphyllia and LPS corals, but as the tanks matured and I've realized some other things will live in there, I've kind of switched my focuses a little bit and started putting some SPS in the last couple months.
How old is the system now?
So now I'm on about, with fish and corals, about 14 months. So it's up for about a year and a half, but I ran like 2 months with just nothing in the tank, just the rocks and lights off.
Is this your first saltwater system?
Yeah, this is my first saltwater reef system. I had cichlid tanks and freshwater tanks in my 20s growing up, and this is my first foray into saltwater.
You mentioned it off camera. I feel like a lot of people kind of pick a side, right? You either really like corals or you really like fish. You were mentioning you really like fish, right? So that's how it kind of got into this hobby, right? The saltwater side. Let's talk about your fish though. You got an amazing selection here. Let's talk about some of your picks and why you chose them.
Yeah, sure. Well, to start off, the first fishes that I were drawn to were tangs, as usually most people are in the hobby. I knew I kind of wanted to have a tank big enough to support several tangs. So that was definitely first on my list. And then, the way I look at the tank is I wanted really fish in all the different, parts of the tank, the water column. So, fish that would hang out at the top, guys that would stay down at the bottom. And then, just when I looked at the tank, I wanted to see life everywhere. So I kind of picked a combination of fish based on where they would hang out in the aquascape and, also on personality as well. My first 2 fish were, of course, the clownfish. My kids named them Jeffrey Bezos and Elon Musk. So those are the first 2 additions to my tank. And I kind of built everything out around them.
You have a pair of triggers in there. You don't typically see a lot of triggers in reef tanks, so it's interesting to see you got them in here. Are they being novel citizens? Are they doing well? How long have they been in the tank now?
So they're actually the last addition in my tank. They've been in about a month now. They have been really, really model citizens, aside from I did just notice one of my starfish is missing some legs this morning, so I'm imagining that, you know, we got a piece of that. So, but other than that, they've been great. They haven't even really moved, tried to move much of the aquascape, so so far so good, thank goodness.
And when it comes to utility fish, do you have any fish that you put in here for some specific jobs? I know we at Top Shelf Aquatics have a lot of fish in our systems, but a lot of them have designated jobs and things that they're doing.
Absolutely. So obviously the tangs, you know, to keep algae at bay. My wrasses, you know, to keep any type of pest or flatworms out of the picture. And I even consider fish like a firefish, a utility fish, and that it's eating the smaller specks that are hanging out in the water column. So that's why I think it's important to have all different size fish, because you know, you have all different size food and particulates floating around the tank. So I feel like that does help the situation.
I see you got a nice little bubble tip here in the rockscape. Have you had any issues with that thing moving around at all?
Yeah, that has been, you know, it was funny, we were just talking about this earlier. It's been an issue. Yeah, I just put some new frags in the tank last week, and I came downstairs. The anemone hadn't moved in about 6 months, and it finally decided to smother the 2 new frags. So yeah, it has been, it's something that I don't know if is going to remain in the tank, you know, going forward, if it does keep moving around. I love it. I love the look of it. I love the feel of having the mixed reef, but it's definitely one of the harder things to keep.
Okay, and then for feeding the fish, what do you feed these guys? They look like they're hungry all the time, right? So what do you feed them?
So I'm a frozen food guy, mostly all frozen food if I'm here. If not, then, you know, pellets occasionally, and then obviously a couple sheets of nori as well. What's crazy enough is the trigger goes after the nori amazingly. So he'll just go and rip a whole chunk off and swim away with it, which is pretty cool.
I think it's maybe kind of a monkey see, monkey do thing. I had a wrasse for a long period of time, a chorus wrasse that I didn't think he was going to go for nori, but I had a couple tangs in the tank. He kind of saw him and he decided that I'm going to go for it too.
Yeah.
Looking at all your corals, you got some really beautiful ganies. I love that toadstool that's got that long polyp going on. What are some of your favorite pieces in here that you have?
Yeah, definitely. You know, I love the ganies. I really got drawn to them. I love the sway. I love the different colors that you can get. Obviously, my euphyllias, my torches, you know, those are probably my favorites in the whole collection. And then now really some of the acros have really been catching my eye. Specifically, you know, some of the ones on the top here that I just recently added, they're starting to grow. They're really starting to, you know, look like they're gonna have some potential to grow out and be beautiful. So, you know, a favorite coral is tough, but I'd have to say if I pick any, it's definitely, you know, those 3 euphyllia heads over there. I look at those things, you know, nonstop. So
they're beautiful. I love how you've also, like most people we've done tank tours with, you guys are kind of creating gardens, right? You're placing corals in like places so that way they kind of have a success and they can do well. It seems like you've got this thing filled out, right? Are we in the period now where we're going to be doing a lot of growing out, kind of letting it sit and letting it do its thing?
Yeah, we're kind of in a holding pattern. You know, there's not too many bare spots left, and I kind of got a plan for where most of the stuff should grow out if it, you know, continues to grow. So right now, you know, aside from a few frags here or there, yeah, I'm kind of waiting for everything now to grow out. You know, I've gotten through the first year, which was, you know, rough, and I learned a lot in the hobby so far, and I keep learning. So as I do, I know the tank will just kind of grow and flourish, you know.
For your first saltwater system, I mean, this thing is beautiful. You've done a great job with it. Staying on the same topic of livestock, let's talk a little bit about your cleanup crew, what you're doing to keep this tank nice and clean on the inside.
Sure, yeah, no, I'm heavy on the cleanup crew since day one. I added pods to the tank probably, you know, from the get-go. And then I actually worked with the cleanup crew in the beginning when there was really little in the tank, and I'm constantly adding the cleanup crew. So got a real diverse cleanup crew, you know, anywhere from conchs, emerald crabs, you know, I've got some Halloween crabs in there. All different size crabs as well. And then your snails, you know, I've got the whole bevy of snails, you know, down from bumblebee to you know, Trocus. I just actually added this week a substantial, you know, addition to the cleanup crew because it had been taken down a little bit in the last month.
Other than the conchs, do you have any other sand sifters you got in the tank?
Oh yeah, I got a sand sifting goby in there, and we were just noting before I have one, and I probably need 2 because he stays on the one side of the tank, and that side is much whiter than the left side of the tank. So I'm definitely going to go and get one for the left side of the tank very soon.
Let's talk about some of the equipment you're running. What are you running for lights up top?
Sure, I've got 3 Sky LEDs up top. Brought those on about 6 months ago. Love them. They great spread, tons of par. I don't even have them close to probably their full potential yet. You know, they're probably about 50-60% of where they are. Really like them a lot. They give a great look and very customizable.
How long is your light schedule run for? What's the period of duration?
So I run about almost 9 hours. I'm at work during the day, so my lights kick on around like 12:30. So, you know, they're on till almost, you know, 10 o'clock at night. So I get to see the tank when I get home at night and do some work on it.
And then for flow, what are you doing for flow in this tank? It seems like you've got a good amount of flow. You got a couple gyres on the side. What else are you running?
Yeah, so I've got 2 gyres that run across the top, and that, you know, that give that nice jet stream propulsion. And then in the back, I've got an MP. That MP doesn't run very hard. It runs probably like 20%, and it's against the back wall to kind of just give overall flow around the whole tank. My theory is in that I don't want ever detritus to sit to the bottom, right? So if anything is ever in the tank, you'll quickly get swept up and, you know, then hopefully pushed into one of the overflows by, you know, the gyres.
Looking at your gyres, what are you running those percentages wise? How much of a flow are you giving to that tank as well as the MP?
I run this guy on about 80 straight. He runs straight all the time. And then this guy runs on a pulse pattern at about 60. The pulse hits back into the heads. And then this guy runs about 20 to 25 during the day, and then at night it'll kick up to about 40 just to get the flow really going when everyone's asleep.
And then the sump space down below, how big of a sump do you have down below?
Sure, I've got a 43-gallon trigger sump running with a Red Ski RSK 600 skimmer. And I run a full fuge with pom-pom macroalgae. I really like a fuge. I'm a kind of a naturalist kind of guy, so I got the fuge going down there, and I've got 2 vector return pumps.
We use a lot of fuges in the farm. You see them all over the place, a lot of tumbling algae going on. When you decided on the refugium, went with the pom-pom, was there a reason for the pom-pom, or you just kind of had the access to it and you went with it?
It's a great question. So I actually started out with 3 different types of macroalgae. I struggled with Cato, and the only 2 things that I really could get to grow that brought down my nutrient levels were pom-pom and sea lettuce. So I figured, hey, it's growing well, it's doing well in my fuge. When I got rid of all the other stuff, I just left it, and now I've just got a fuge full of pom-pom.
Are you doing the fuge for nutrient export and for pH? Is it a multitude of things?
Yeah, definitely from both. Definitely from both.
What else are you dosing here in the tank?
So I obviously dose 2-part, right? So through my Apex system, and then once a week I do Microbacter 7, and I also dose Cato Grow.
What are you using for a return pump?
I'm using 2 vectors.
Very nice. Any other big equipment or little things that you're using that you've seen to help you make this a little bit easier for you?
So we always get back to you know, the snake oil in the industry, right? So I do have a snake oil device on my tank that I do believe works. I purchased a small device for about $60. I believe it's called the Ultimate Clarifier. It supposedly is to charge your water and have the particles just stick together. I put it in my tank about a month and a half ago because it was cloudy. My tank's not cloudy anymore. So I don't know if it was a combination of using that, a piece of filter floss in there, but it's definitely worked. It's increased my skimming function. So I'm gonna say that's my snake oil piece of trick that I used.
So you got the tank right here. I know right behind this wall though, you've got a little fish room going on.
Mini fish room.
What's going on in the back over here?
So yeah, I've got my RODI system, my 50-gallon barrel for my water changes, as well as my Apex setup, my control panel, access to all my pumps, as well as to the back of the tank.
So you have a full Apex system on this tank. Are you enjoying having the Apex?
Love it. I would have to say that was one of the turning points in my reefing career, was getting that system and being able to monitor, you know, those parameters that I was just kind of really, you know, looking at every 2 weeks when I did a water change. So it really let me dial in my dosing and allow this stuff to grow.
Yeah, having control over your tank and the automation that's kind of happened over the course of the last, I'd say the last 10 to 15 years is pretty amazing in the reef hobby. It's just getting smarter and smarter. I mean, you look at the roller mats, you look at all these things, there's just so many new products that keep coming out that are just always kind of changing it. So let's talk a little bit about what kind of numbers you're going for. If you have a certain range of numbers, let's talk about some of the numbers.
Sure. You know, I try not to chase numbers, but obviously you check them. my biggest thing that I feel is the most important in a tank is your pH and your alkalinity. I feel like if those things aren't in balance, the rest of your tank will not be. So I do keep a pretty strict eye on those. My pH runs about 8.2 to 8.3. My alkalinity is about 9.5. Calcium 450. Magnesium's some 1400, 1450 in there. And I keep an eye on those parameters, and I test my nitrates and phosphates probably once a week. Nitrates are usually between 7 to 10, and my phosphates run a little high. I'm usually 0.03 to 0.05. I kind of look more at the ratio between the two and try to keep them in balance than anything else. But yeah, so I've definitely tried to tackle some of the higher phosphate issues with some GFO this last month, and I've been able to bring it down, back to where it should be.
I like the GSP on the back wall. Is that the plan? Are you trying to get a full carpet of some GSP in the back?
Yeah, I think it would look cool. I'm a 70s shag carpet kind of guy. I think it would look cool back there to have a shag carpet or a backdrop to the tank. I'm actually even thinking of putting maybe some Sophastria on the other side and see if I can get maybe something going on the other side.
Yeah, some encrusters, getting some things
moving
moving
backdrop.
forward.
Yeah, I like my encrusting corals for sure. I think they're pretty cool.
When we're talking about maintenance schedule, maintenance that you're doing personally, obviously you have a lot of workers in the tank, right? You mentioned you have a big cleanup crew. What are you doing for maintenance? How are you working around the tank? And what is your schedule for that?
Yeah, religious on every 2 week, 20% water change. I don't miss it. I figured that is probably the #1 way to keep your tank, up and running and beautiful. The other aspect that I did miss for a while is keeping the sump and your other components clean. So your pumps, your gyres. So taking them out every 2 weeks, brushing them off, getting the algae, detritus, and coralline off of them. And then keeping your skimmer clean, just taking that apart, cleaning the neck and, that disgusting job. But every 2 weeks, it's done.
You're saying it's your first saltwater tank. What's been the biggest struggles for you as you've kind of gone through? You said you did freshwater before, quite the transition. We're happy to have you on the salty side. We are very happy to have you here because it's the better side. But let's talk about some of the things you went through, going through your first saltwater tank and the trials, tribulations, all that good stuff, what you went through to be able to get to this point, because obviously you're doing a great job. The tank looks great.
Thank you. So I definitely did a heavy amount of research, and before I got involved with the hobby, you guys got tons of videos, and that's made it a lot easier, I think, for guys getting into the hobby to get started off and get off on the right foot. My biggest thing that I learned or had the biggest struggle with was understanding how important the roles of nitrate and phosphate are in the reef tank, and understanding that coming from the freshwater world where you can kind of let those things go and your tank can look fine, that they have underlying effects on the overall inhabitants of the tank. So I had a big spike months ago because I was overfeeding. I didn't know, I was simply just, I was putting 4 or 5 cubes of food in there, and I had a huge, because I had gotten to a place where the tank was looking good, and I was like, oh cool, and I kind of stepped on the gas pedal, and things started to spiral out of control. So not realizing the effects of what you're putting in the tank to feed the fish comes out at the other end in your corals and the structure and everything else, I think was probably something that I learned hard in the beginning.
Everyone has the mentality of the grass is always greener, right? Every single time you look at the system, we've all come in here, right? We've seen the tank and we're so excited to see it, right? What's some things that you see that you're like, maybe I wish I could have changed that, or something you would have done differently when you look at this tank? Or is there nothing that you
no, it's so funny you say that, because I love this Zoa rock, but I definitely wish I would have put it down in my scape and put a different archway up here in the middle. It's beautiful, it's great, but it's taken up a lot of real estate in my tank. They grow like weeds. I've kind of blocked it off to some extent from my main scape, but that would be something that I definitely see and go, I love it, it looks beautiful, but it'd be cool if it was flat across here and I had another arch, this way. So I think about that all the time.
Other than the fish themselves, right, they're feeding the corals. What are you doing to feed the corals? Are you doing any spot feeding? Are you, bringing any coral foods into the tank? What are you doing for feeding these guys?
I do some spot feeding. I just started feeding reefroids, as well as I'm a big phyto guy, so I dose phyto every day along to the tank.
What salt are you using in this tank?
Oh, I use Red Sea Coral Pro.
Okay, Red Sea Coral Pro. Are you enjoying that? Do you like that? Is it getting you to the numbers you like?
Love it. It keeps my alkalinity nice and high. You know, I keep it between 9 and 10, so it's a nice high alkalinity salt. It's got a ton of trace elements in it. I've had great success with it. I don't think I would change.
You're getting to the point where you might have to start fragging some things. Have you decided that maybe you need to start setting up a frag tank and maybe get cutting some things down?
Got some empty space over there behind the cameraman.
Yeah, okay.
Yet to been developed, so I think, yeah, there's probably a future frag tank there.
Okay, right on, sweet. I asked everybody when I come into their home, and I want to see, you know, especially now from you, you know, it's your first system. What's a big piece of advice or something you would tell any reefer or a new reef keeper that's coming into the hobby? What would you tell them, you know, giving them a little nugget of knowledge or a tip?
Do your research. You know, there's a lot of information out there. This is not like 20 years ago. Everything's online. Do your research and be patient. Patience is the key. I mean, everyone says it, but nothing good happens quickly in this hobby. The more patient you are and the lower your expectations are in the beginning, I think the better it is.
Really been awesome. Thank you for letting me come by and check out this system. It's been awesome. This tank is beautiful. You're doing an amazing job for it being your first system. I wish my first fish tank looked like this. I mean, mine didn't look like this. I was, you know, 8 years old and I had a tank that was full of live rock and it was crazy. But this has been a total blast. You know, if you guys have enjoyed this video, you guys are gonna love all the uptight close shots with this tank. It's really, really nice. If you guys have hung out all the way till the end, I wanna say thank you so much. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out on any future uploads.